very happy today to our trauma relief mission that was supported by ATFT Foundation. We went to Rwanda in April, May 2006 and also returned in 2007. We were there first 12 years after the anniversary of the genocide, and there were over 800,000 people killed in Rwanda in that genocide. And amongst the people that we treated was this village elder, senior, who was made to witness the killing of his wife and his children and other people in the village. He was horrified by what he was seeing and thought that he might be one that they were leaving to tell the story. But then they actually killed him. They hit him with machetes, because when we saw him even 12 years later, we could see the huge scars from 4 machete wounds on his neck and head. And this is like 12 years later. We do not know how he managed to survive. It's a miracle that he survived. And he had constant flashbacks. He said every single day for 12 years he's having the haunting memories of seeing his wife and children slaughtered. And the slaughter was at close quarters because they were by machete. So he was having these constant flashbacks. He had nightmares every single night, and he was quite debilitated. He also had dizziness. So we treated his PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder, very successfully. He said he walked around and he came back even about 20 minutes later, and he said the constant, what they call daymares, the constant daymares are gone. And then the next day he came back and said, I had no nightmares for the first time in 12 years. And he was so appreciative and grateful. And he's an elder gentleman, but he had, when we first saw him, he was covered with the fine red dirt in Rwanda because he was dizzy, kept falling. And so when he came back to say he had no more nightmares, he said, can you please help with my dizziness? And we're looking at, he had some pretty severe injuries. So we're assuming he has some neurological problems, and we're thinking, neurologists, medical treatments. But this is 12 years later. They don't have the access to the medical services. So we said, well, we'll see what we can do to make him a little more comfortable with the TFT. So we did the diagnostic with him with the TFT, and didn't have much expectation that it would be too helpful given the severe nature of what looks like his injuries 12 years prior. Well, he said, I don't feel dizzy anymore. And he's walking around and he's just kind of amazed. And we thought maybe it's like maybe a placebo effect or something, or he's, we weren't sure what it was, but we thought, well, at least he feels better for the moment. That's good. And then the next day, when we were treating the orphans, and we were actually treating quite a large number, there were 400 orphans there, 174 of them were genocide survivors. And what we're busy treating the orphans, and the principal of the school, the director, comes running in and says, Caroline, Caroline, we have an emergency. And I said, oh, well, what's the emergency? He said, well, that elder gentleman that you just treated the other day, he's here to thank you. And we said, well, that's no problem. We'll take a half-hour lunch break, because we're working from dawn to dusk. When we take a half-hour lunch break, we'll talk to him if he can wait a little while. He says, no, 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 you don't understand. The elder gentleman told everyone in his village he no longer has flashbacks, he no longer has nightmares, and he's not dizzy anymore, he's not falling. So he is outside there, and there were 30 people from the village asking to be treated with TFT, and you've got my 400 kids. So he said, "Well, you know, we have your, we're going to be working with the orphans. We will actually, if we don't get to the villagers, we will be training people who will be able to speak this language, the community leaders, so they will be able to treat them if we don't get to them." So that was how it handled. But the appreciation from the people in Rwanda was just mind-boggling and so inspiring and touching. After we treated him that Sunday, so we treated him early in the week. By Sunday, when we went to the Easter service, the Sunday service at Rwanda at the El Shaddai Orphanage, he came, the elder gentleman came, and they have where you can stand up and speak, part of it. He stood up and said, "I am now well for the first time in 12 years. I have no flashbacks, no nightmares, no dizziness. I am well, and I want to give back to El Shaddai for bringing the American team, TFT team here. So I would like to open my humble home and take in 3 or 4 orphans." And we're all very, very touched by that. It was, you know, just in a few days.